welcome to NPS Now, your source for news and information about Norfolk Public Schools. I'm your host, Karren Tanner, and we have a special guest with us here today, Jill Gaitens of the Military Child Education Coalition. Welcome, Jill, to NPS Now.
Well, thank you very much.
I am happy to have you, and we're excited about an announcement coming soon of a new grant for our military students. And you were very instrumental in helping us to secure this grant. Tell me, what's the name of the grant and how much is it for?
This grant is called Operation Thrive, Moving Beyond Resilience, and it's a $1.5 million grant.
And how long will this grant last?
This is a 5-year grant with the first year being a planning year. Most of the services will end up starting in year 2 through 4.
How did we get selected for this grant?
The Department of Defense Educational Activity chooses school systems that have high numbers of military-dependent students, but once you get that grant, it's for all of your students, not just your military-connected students in the selected schools.
So who are some of the contributors to us getting this grant? It's through what department?
It's the Department of Defense Education Activity Partnership, and they give grants to school systems across the United States to support the cultures of military-connected students and to support different activities that really impact each of those individual school communities.
So let's kind of unpack this grant, because when I met you the other day and you were talking, I'm like, oh, I've got to have her on the show to help unpack this grant so our viewers and our parents of those students that the schools are going to be the recipients of it, to kind of help them understand just exactly what it is. So the grant is called Operation Thrive. And so what's its mission?
The mission of Operation Thrive is to build capacity within the school system to enhance the services that you provide for military-dependent students and to make them feel very comfortable in your school culture.
So who exactly will benefit from this grant?
This grant is going to benefit nearly 5,000 students in 10 Norfolk Public Schools that are heavily military impacted. The schools that are going to be affected by the grant are Academy of Discovery at Lakewood, Camp Allen Elementary School, Larchmont Elementary, Seawills Point, Terrellton, Willoughby, Bayview, Calcott, Willard Model Elementary, Ocean View Elementary. Building capacity, though, it will affect the entire division.
The entire division. So we were picked, our 10 schools were picked. And so the military students within those schools were picked because of that, because of the military. But the other kids who were at that school, whatever programs or benefits that we have for the military kids, will those kids in addition be recipients of this grant money too?
Definitely. Once the schools are selected, we evaluate based on the military-dependent students, but every student in the school is certainly eligible for the services and will benefit through those services.
So now, what are some of the programs we're going to be implementing in these schools?
In each of the schools, they'll implement the student-to-student program. It's a peer mentoring, peer support program that's adult-led. They'll create individual plans for meeting the needs of military-dependent students once they arrive to the schools. We're also going to be doing a really fun program called Tell Me a Story, where literature is used to enhance the conversations that teachers can have and adults can have with students regarding difficult concepts such as resilience and grief. Probably one of the most programs that is going to have the deepest impact is going to be your military transition consultant. That person will be responsible for really building capacity within the school divisions and making sure that each of those families feel very welcome during their transitions and understand their school system. So any complaints that you might experience from military families will most likely disappear in those schools, but those schools are already doing a phenomenal job.
So what are some of the things with the student-to-student? How is that going to look, that type of program in the school?
We're going to train adult leaders in those campuses to be able to understand the culture of military-dependent students and then to work with their staffs to kind of spread that culture throughout their school communities. So they'll plan things in their school communities like dads and donuts, moms and muffins. They'll purple up for Month of the Military Child and plan different activities that'll make those families feel really welcome on the campus.
What are some of the challenges that our military students face?
Of course, we've got our transitions. That's our biggest one, where the children are transitioning 6 to 9 times during their educational career. So they may be experiencing moves within the school community, so Norfolk, Chesapeake, Virginia Beach, and some of the other cities that surround it with base housing, or they may be experiencing moves cross-country or moves even to other cultures and other countries. When they come into Norfolk, we want them to thrive, not just exist and be part of the school community, but really have a positive experience. And I think Norfolk is already doing a phenomenal job, and this is just going to enhance the services that they're providing in the division.
Now, how did your department or your organization get involved with this grant?
The Military Child Education Coalition is a worldwide organization that serves the needs of military-dependent students. We have a large presence in the Hampton Roads area, and we're really excited to be working with Norfolk Public Schools to be able to bring those services into the schools. We've done some student-to-student trainings and some professional development in Norfolk, and we found the division to be highly responsive. It's just the perfect opportunity to partner to meet those needs of those children in this community.
So what other schools or cities are you involved in outside of Norfolk?
Outside of Norfolk, we're in most of the cities in Hampton Roads. You'd also find us in Fayetteville. You'll find us out in Harker Heights, Texas, out in San Diego, even overseas in Germany and Okinawa. Wherever you find military-dependent families and students, you're going to find MSEC. But again, we are a worldwide organization. There are over 4 million military-dependent students in the nation and abroad, and we want to make sure that all of those students experience positive educational experiences in our schools. And Norfolk is a perfect example of a division that is really working hard to make those families feel welcome.
What do you think are the long-term benefits for us being involved in this grant? I know it's for 5 years, but after the 5 years, what do you think is going to continue?
I think you're really going to build capacity within the school division to better recognize and meet the needs of your military-dependent students. The professional development will live on long after the grant. Also, the experiences that your staff have understanding the needs of military-dependent students will have a deep impact on your campuses, and those individual plans that each of your schools make will stay in place long after this grant is gone. We're really excited about the student-to-student program because that's a program that I think is going to also have a really deep impact, and it'll last much longer than this grant will. So 10 years from now, we hope to visit those schools and still see our student-to-student groups and still see your students thriving and having a positive experience.
Yeah, and you just mentioned that some of the staff members will still be there long after the grant is over. What type of positions are connected to this grant?
We have a couple positions that are Norfolk positions and a couple positions that are outside of Norfolk. Norfolk will have a half-time program coordinator that will manage the grant. They'll have a full-time data specialist to help your staff and help your administrators understand who your military-dependent students are and what their needs are. We'll also have an outside transition consultant that works embedded in your schools. So that transition consultant will travel to each of those schools, providing professional development and providing tools to build capacity. Outside of that, we have support staff at MSEC that will provide services from our Harker Heights location, and I'm of course over here in the Hampton Roads area, so I'll be providing ground support to make sure the grant is successful and to make sure it has the impact that we expect it to have.
What type of professional development will our teachers in training receive in order to implement this grant?
We're going to customize the professional development for Norfolk Public Schools. We have a laundry list of opportunities that they can sign on for. One of the professional developments that I know we're going to want to look at is Living the New Normal. Which is a really exciting program for teachers to really understand what it means to be a military-dependent student and what their experiences are. We also have a program called Transitions, and it talks about some of the resilience factors of military-dependent students and how their transitions affect their learning. We're going to learn about, your teachers and your school administrators will learn about some myths, and they'll also learn about some facts and some truth about military-dependent families. I know a lot of people think that military-dependent students arrive behind their peers. The data says differently. The data says that military-dependent students thrive academically. They just need to be in that environment where people understand their culture.
So how will you evaluate? How can you evaluate the success of this program? I know you're just possibly going to just track the military students, but how will you be able to evaluate this?
Norfolk annually does a climate survey. In that climate survey, there are a couple questions that we're going to be using to evaluate, and we're going to be looking for some positive movements, making sure that those students and their parents are expressing that they're having a positive experience and they find the climate in their schools positive. We're going to use the data that you're already collecting, so we're not going to be putting in a lot of surveys and taking up a lot of your administrators' time. This is really a grant about making sure that we have a culture in each of those campuses that supports our military families and all Norfolk Public School students that transition throughout our schools.
We're looking forward to this grant announcement, and I thank you for coming on the show to help unpack the details of this grant. It's a lot of information, and for the next 5 years, I'm sure we'll be having you back here to talk about this grant as it continues to go out through the school district. So thank you so much, Jill, for joining us on the show.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and congratulations on your new grant.
Thank you, thank you. And stay tuned for more NPS Now, and up next, Steve Suttmiller with sports. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to NPS Now. I'm Steve Suttmiller, Senior Coordinator of Athletics. Today in the studio we have Drew Mink from Maury High School. Drew, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Drew, we have you here because you just accomplished something very special for an athlete. You are the 2015 Eastern District Golf Champion. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Talk a little bit about the district championship.
It's all the schools in Norfolk. It's some good players out there, including, second place was my teammate Carter Smith.
Okay.
I'd like to think us two are the best.
All right.
It's always nice to beat your friends and have bragging rights.
So with golf, so we can kind of get people on the same page, there's two championships in that. There's an individual championship that's awarded, and there's the team championship. So Maury High School, with 4 golfers that scored, had the best score of the event out of the 8 schools that participated, and then you had the individual low score of the round. What was that score?
78.
78. So, what's your normal score in a golf round?
I'm a 4 handicap, so about depending on the par, 76, 74. So I really didn't play that well that day.
Okay. So in that round, how did things go? I mean, were there any nerves throughout the day? Did you feel any heat coming up behind you?
Yeah, I was actually trailing most of the day to Ashton from Norview. I think I triple bogeyed the 3rd hole and was down 5 or 6 strokes to him.
Oh, okay. Nice comeback then.
Thank you.
All right. So with high school golf, you guys have to walk and carry your own bag. So it's a little different than the professional level where they have somebody caddying for them, or the average person that golfs gets to ride around in a cart. So there's a couple added stresses to participating and playing high school golf. So does that affect your game, or does that matter?
It's kind of how junior tournaments, I've always carried my own bag and done things like that.
All right. So with Maury High School, they're coached by Jack Baker. Talk a little bit about your coach. How has he helped your game, and how has he helped guide the Commodores to a championship?
He helps a lot more with, the 3rd and 4th players who are just beginning, but he'll, say in a match, if one of us is getting angry, he'll tell us to settle down and keep grinding and out.
So what do you like about golf? Why does that attract you?
I think one thing I like about it is that it's an individual sport, and we have a team, but it's your score. And
okay. So what are some of the ups and downs in golf? And I'm just a once or twice a year player, so I know it's frustrating. So what about you?
It's very frustrating. I've had rounds, this summer in the 90s, and then I've had rounds in the 60s, and it's just one day can be great and the next can be terrible.
How do you deal with that? One day you're shooting a 90, and the next day you're shooting a 78. How do you balance that out and continue to go forward?
Just got to keep practicing, keep working.
Okay. So you mentioned practice. Where does Maury practice during golf season?
We practice up at Lambert's Point Golf Course.
All right. So the city has 2 golf courses. We have Lambert's, and then now we have Ocean View that's run by I think Andy Giles. You started golf at a young age. Talk a little bit about who got you involved with golf.
Of course my dad got me. He's been a golf pro since I was about 1 year old, I think. He actually is one of the people who leases Lambert's and Ocean View.
All right, so you've definitely had an advantage where you've been on the course, you've had some good tutelage by your dad, so that's pretty interesting. All right, so getting back to your team, what's the outlook for Maury? How are they going to compete? They've already won the district, now they're moving into conference play in Conference 9. How do you think the Commodores can compete in that?
I hope we win Conference 9. I think we definitely can if we play well.
Okay, and then as an individual, have you looked at other scores that you're going to be competing against, and can you be ready for match those scores?
Yes, I have. There's some pretty good competitors out there, but I think I can win and beat them.
So, we play against the Norfolk Public School student athletes, but What does it feel like going against some of the Virginia Beach kids, some of the Chesapeake kids now?
I mean, that's where a lot of the competition is in Virginia Beach. I mean, golf is huge over there.
Okay. All right. You finish high school golf. You're only a junior, which is a great thing. So last year, as a freshman and sophomore, what were your scores like?
They range from everywhere. I mean, I had some rounds my freshman year. I think I shot in the hundreds a few times. Last year, I had a couple good rounds towards the end of the season, but this summer and this season, I've finally started to play some good golf.
All right, so with, obviously practice is the key. How often do you practice, and do you practice not only during, golf season for high school is from August the 3rd through the middle of October, but what are you doing during the off season?
I practice during the summer every day, pretty much. I probably can think of about maybe 3 days I haven't played golf this summer.
Okay.
During the winter I try to, but it's pretty cold.
All right. So you're a junior, you move into your senior year next year. What about after that? Is there potential plans? What are your future plans for golf, if there are future plans for golf?
I hope to
in college.
Play golf in college somewhere. I'm really not sure where, how, or what division, how good I am. But I definitely hope to play in college.
All right. So you're that Eastern District champion. You go into these other tournaments, these other events. Do you think you have a bullseye? Are people looking at you now as, this is the guy we got to watch?
Yeah, I think I am.
All right. That's a good feeling to have as an athlete,
yes.
Being number one. So, Drew, congratulations on the Eastern District Championship. We look forward to watching you in the conference play, and then hopefully in the region, and maybe even moving into the Virginia State Tournament, which would be quite an accomplishment. So congratulations.
All right. Thank you for having me.
More NPS Now after this.
Welcome back to NPS Now. With me now today is Karren Bailey, the Executive Director for Assessment, Research, and Accountability. Welcome to NPS Now.
Well, thank you.
We had Jill Gaitens on earlier to talk about Operation Thrive, and we had a great celebration the other day about this grant at Camp Allen Elementary School. What did you think about that celebration?
I thought it was a wonderful opportunity for Norfolk and the communities of Norfolk and our schools and students and parents. And I was very excited among all of the visitors that we had that attended the event.
Yeah, Dr. Thornton made the announcement of us receiving the $1.5 million grant, Operation Thrive, Moving Beyond Resilience, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And we had some heavy hitters in town for this.
We certainly did. I was happy to see that Mrs. McAuliffe came to help with the press release or the announcement of the award, as well as Admiral Harvey from the military and some select other individuals, certainly Mayor Frame and Marcus Johnson.
Marcus Jones, yes, from the city and the mayor, and we even had a lot of military leadership present as well. So it was a great time for the school and the 10 schools that were in attendance.
Yes, absolutely.
So tell us, how did we actually get involved with this grant?
Well, certainly the approach was with the previous administration, Dr. King and Dr. Savigny. And Dr. Savigny asked myself, as well as Dr. Gail Flanagan, who is an educational research consultant for us, to work with Jill Gaitens and to explore the opportunities for Norfolk as it relates to serving our military-connected students.
So how will this really benefit our students? The military ones and the non-dependent students?
The thrust or the main focus of the grant is to deal with the emotional well-being of our military-connected students. And certainly there will be strategies related to professional development opportunities for teachers, as well as parent engagement activities, as well as activities for students, looking certainly at the emotional well-being of students, helping with the transition of things as military families encounter when someone leaves home for deployment and stuff like that.
Yeah, I know she mentioned Jill earlier, about a student-to-student mentorship program.
Yes.
And how this first year is the implementation stage, but it's the training that you just mentioned is what's going on right now.
Yes, right, yes. And we have, this is a 5-year grant, and the first year is for planning. And so we'll be planning all the different activities that our schools will be participating in, and lining up the professional development and scheduling in line with what the district is also offering.
So what's your role, now that we have the grant, what's your role and Dr. Flanagan's role with this grant?
Well, Dr. Flanagan will function as the project director to make sure that things work according to the plan that was outlined in the grant. And she'll also work very closely with Jill Gaitens and school personnel to make sure that we're following the guidelines. In addition to that, we will have additional personnel that will help us with the record keeping, and that's where I come in and help to make that happen, and then so that we could capture more students that are military connected, because the feeling is that we have not captured all of the students that are military connected, and so therefore we might be missing out on opportunities to engage them in some sort of activity to ease their transition.
And why is this important for these 10 schools to be involved and be a part of this grant?
Well, certainly we started with the 10 elementary schools, and we feel that they have a large portion of military-connected students. And we feel that by helping them to address some of the needs and whatnot, that then we would further see improvement in other areas that may be hindering students in their success academically.
So if you nurture the whole child, you think it'll cross over into their academics?
Yes.
Right. So how will we evaluate the success of this program?
Certainly we have our district climate survey that we administer every year for parents, teachers, and students. And we have outlined survey questions that would be pointed directly to this type of support that we're providing for the schools.
So the climate survey is part of the evaluation tool for the Operation Thrive grant. Now, what if we have students, which we will have students who are not military, but they still can participate in this? How are we checking their evaluating them or surveying them, or are we just using the results from the military students?
Well, we'll be using all of the results that we receive. I think we will have a category on the form to indicate if they're military connected. And so therefore we would be able to disaggregate the data further to see what the difference in responses are. Certainly the activities that will take place at each of the schools not only will be offered to military connected students, but will be offered to all students.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for sharing that information.
Yes.
So while I have you here, you're responsible for monitoring our SOL success and our data.
Yes.
So tell me, when will the final results and the processes be released to us?
Well, currently we are functioning off of preliminary information that we have shared with our board. We've had 2 work sessions over the last month. We currently did one the other day and then one a month ago, talking about our secondary and elementary performance. And we have showed improvement in all of our areas tested and whatnot. Certainly in some areas not as much as we would like to have seen. But we have recently found that the state wants to implement new accreditation statuses. And I believe there's about 7 or 8 different statuses that a school could achieve. And so it's part of legislation as well. So they're trying to get everything approved so that we can apply it to last year's results, which would then be for this year's status.
So how will those new statuses help us or work for us?
Certainly it would help to showcase some of the improvement that some of our schools have done, where they might not have quite met the benchmark, but they did show great improvement, and we would like for our schools to be recognized for that. We have some schools that will be fully accredited, and so we feel very good about the implementation of these new statuses.
So it's not a big difference in the fact of them waiting later to announce the results?
Well, it is a little later. It's going to be the latter part of October, I believe October 27th.
Because traditionally we let schools know when.
Well, traditionally the state provides a press release around the middle of September. And so this is another month added on to the release of that information. But I think that it will be well worth the wait. Certainly school would have already started.
Right.
And so information has already been put together based on preliminary information. And but we feel very good about this new strategy of statuses that will be implemented.
Right, and you've reported to the board at several work sessions, I think last month and this month, regarding our preliminary data. How do we look overall?
Overall, we look very, very good. Certainly at our elementary level, we have really met or exceeded all of the tested areas. At our high school level, I believe it was 11 out of 12 that we met or exceeded the benchmark. And I believe that we exceeded or showed improvement in all of our areas at the middle school level.
Wow, that's great. Well, thank you, Karren. Double duty, dual duty for you.
Yes.
So thank you for sharing about the celebration for the new Operation Thrive grant and the preliminary results and overall look at what we're going to be looking like. And so we're excited, and we'll have you back after October to talk about the SOL results.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
And we want to thank you for watching NPS Now. That airs weekly on WNPS, Channel 47, or you can view us online at www.npsk12.com. If you have any great story ideas or information you'd like to share, email us at nps_news@npsk12.com. Again, thank you for watching NPS Now.